What's happening, everybody? My name is Akash Devgan, and welcome back to Akash Devgan Podcast. My guest for today is Charles Willian. Charles is from Brazil and is currently working as a full stack engineer for PayPal. Along with doing full stack web development, Charles is also into building mobile apps using Flutter. He's one of the best programmers that I have come across in my career. And in this podcast, we'll be discussing how to get started in web dev and how you can improve as a programmer. So please help me in welcoming Charles Willian. Thank you so much, Charles, for coming to the podcast. And I know the knowledge that and your thoughts you'll bring to it will be very valuable to the people who are listening to.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, this is the first time I'm doing this, guys, so be gentle.
No, I'm sure, man, you'll do great. Awesome. So let's get started with you first, and like how you got started in programming, and what was your process like?
Okay, so I started about 4 years ago in 2018.
Okay.
Right there, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do. Actually, I got into computer science by parachuting. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. I just liked computers, and there was a skill called computer science. So what could go wrong, right? So I
Yeah.
just started there, and I met this friend that he was like the entrepreneur guy. He wanted to make money really fast, and he started like building an agency, and he built WordPress sites, but I didn't know it was WordPress. So I
Okay.
thought that he was awesome. I was like, man, how can he do this? I mean, like, what does he have that I don't have? And then I was like, so I need to learn too. So if he can do it, I can do it as well. So I bought this course on
Mm,
Udemy that was like advanced CSS and HTML. I knew a little bit about them, but I wasn't like any
yeah.
expert. Yeah, I wasn't an expert. And I went through this course like a whole week, and I studied every day, every day. I wasn't in a full-time job yet, so I had a lot of time to study. So yeah, and I went full on that course. And but
Mm,
in the end, I still didn't know how to build a website. I knew how to do it on my local environment, but I didn't know how to push it, how to get visitors on it. And then I learned that we needed JavaScript for that as well. So I went and bought another course on Udemy for JavaScript. And then I learned everything about JavaScript, everything. Because, yeah, I guess I don't know everything until today.
yeah.
So, yeah, and then I started learning a lot about JavaScript. I did this course at the same pace as I did with HTML and CSS. I did it really fast, and like I tried to apply everything. And then this friend came to me, and then he said that he did everything on WordPress. And then I was like, hey, what's WordPress? What's that?
Yeah.
And I started looking into it in the internet, and then I found that WordPress was actually easy, and I didn't know to know everything that I knew. And I started doing
Yeah.
websites for small clients in my city. I started to get freelance job in web apps and stuff. And yeah, that gave me experience, and I could actually apply what I have learned in those Udemy courses.
Mm,
And then I heard about a boot camp. So in this time period, I already had like two clients, and I had built websites for them. So I kind of had an experience as a web developer, but everything I did was on
got it.
WordPress. So
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't actually coding, but it gave me a lot of
I see.
experience dealing with clients and stuff. And
Yeah.
then I heard about this boot camp that teach it React, and I was like, what
Mm,
the hell is
okay.
React? I don't know about anything about
Nice.
that. But then
Yeah.
this the same friend came and said, man, they are really great and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, let me take a look at that. And then I did this boot camp, like, and it teaches Node, React, and React Native. And I was like,
Okay.
damn, now I can get like bigger clients. And I went on this freelancer app again, and then I got a job. I landed a client that is the one of the biggest fantasy games here in Brazil. And yeah, that was pretty awesome. I did their whole front end app and mobile app.
Nice.
So yeah, that was pretty great. So I was like,
Is it
yeah, sure.
is it still live, that app that you worked on?
Yeah, it is. It is live. I don't maintain it anymore,
Okay,
but yeah, it's live. There is a lot of code that I wrote there.
awesome.
If
So I'll post links to everything in the description below,
Sure.
like to the Udemy courses that you did, the app that you built, so like people who are listening can see it and check it out.
Sure, yeah. Just a reminder, before I started all of this web development thing, I was a computer science student. So I had classes about
Okay.
basic data structures, object-oriented programming. So I knew the basics of it. And I think that was like a great foundation for everything I did and I do until today. So yeah, if someone's starting, please don't leave those behind. Like study data structures, study OOP, and yeah, you're gonna be like 90% of what you need to like go to any language you want or framework or whatever.
I see.
Okay.
Got it. So basically, so you started with Udemy, you did few courses there, right? HTML, CSS, I'm assuming you picked up from Udemy, and then you did JavaScript, and then you came to WordPress. Is that correct?
Yeah. And then I went to WordPress. I didn't
Okay.
had any courses on WordPress. I learned everything like
Okay.
Googling and stuff. But yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Got it. And you said you were in computer science before. So did you go to like a university, or were you doing like a distance learning or
No,
online
I
degree or
went
something?
to an university. Like I got into college in 2017, and yeah, I
Okay.
had like the first 2 years they were like fundamental for my formation, but the rest was like I really didn't need that. But you don't actually need a college to learn how to program and how to program well. You just need to know where
Yes.
to search.
I see. That's exactly what my thought process is too, man. Like, and the way you started, I started pretty much the same way. Like, I remember I used to work at like a part time at this pizza store, but then whenever I get spare time, I used to go to library and then just do
Yeah.
like Udemy courses and build as many projects as I can. Like, I started building like calculator, to-do list, everything. So my approach is usually like building stuff. I learn a lot by directly building it and then going on from there, like exploring what is a better way to do this. So that's how I learned as well. Some of the sites that I use, like Udemy is one of them, and then I also used Team Treehouse is another one that I used to learn front end. Yeah, that this is how my process got started. But why do you say that data structures and object oriented? If you learn that, you'll learn like 90% of the languages. Is there like a reason?
So every language has their like foundations in their basic like
Okay.
functional or objective oriented, and there's another paradigm that we don't use anymore, which is like I did forget the name, sorry, but there are like three main paradigms that, but main
Hmm.
of them are like functional programming and objective oriented programming.
Is
The,
it imperative, declarative
uh,
paradigms?
yeah, it's something on that line, but I don't actually
Okay,
remember. Sorry.
got it.
So, for example, if we learn data structures, then we know how computers will read your code. So that's really important because you are writing a code that another human can read and the computer can interpret. And so so the computer can also read your code. But computers, they are not as so yeah, they are not as smart as humans. So you need to like
Hmm.
type everything as they need so you can get your program to run. And when you learn data
Yeah,
structure, you learn how computers think, and then you can pass your instructions to it. Like you need to know what's an object, what's an array, what are strings, booleans, and numbers, and how computers deal with that. And data structures, they do help you to like structure your so sorry for the pun so they
no worries.
you structure your thinking into what the computer will read. So let's say you want a list of guests for your party, So you want to build an array that maybe contains a lot of objects, and each object is a person. So, but in real life, we don't actually have objects as a person. So, but computers do need that. So we always have to think like computers think. Actually, we have to think like humans think and then translate that to how computers will read it. And that's why
Yeah.
data structures are important.
Yeah, and I have noticed it in like I've been ever since I've been coding. Like there are like million different ways to do the same thing.
Yes.
It's just it comes down to how fast every process, like how fast every way that you're doing things is. Like for example, nesting loops. You can get like if you have to loop through a small amount of data, nesting loops maybe is not a problem because but then if you have to loop through a huge amount of data, let's say, and then it becomes a problem. Like the same solution works for the smaller data but not for the bigger data. Now when you have large sums of data, you have to figure out which is the best algorithm to basically like loop through things, right? I think this is one of the main problems that like programmers deal with, like when we are working in like a smaller agencies or like smaller companies where there's not a lot of data.
Yeah.
We are thinking is not the same, whereas now we are working at PayPal, there's a huge amount of data that you have to deal with,
Yeah.
so your thinking changes. You started to think in terms of like what is the best algorithm, what is the best way to structure my data so I can loop through it faster, right? So this is like how I approach things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's really important. Like the size of the business, the business size, they really they have a yeah, they you have to uh, understand how big your business is so you can structure your data
Yeah,
on it. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, it does impact the way you're coding, right?
Yes.
Like if it's huge amount of data that you're dealing with, you have to make sure you write code in a way that is able to handle that amount of data.
Yes.
I mean, looping through 10 items in an array is fairly easy, but looping through like millions of items in an array, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
becomes a bigger problem when that array has another array inside it, and
Yeah. Yeah, and that is one of the problems that you were dealing with, right? When you were working on that diff utility feature in PayPal.
yeah. So there are nested objects. So there are an object inside an object inside another object, and then you have to like
Yeah.
loop through all of it and show it in the screen,
Yeah.
and yeah, that takes time.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That task was crazy. Awesome. Cool. Let's move on to the next
Sure.
question. Can you give advice to people? Like what can you give like whatever in your own words, advice to people who want to get started in programming or web development in specific? And if you can put the like your advice in like steps to follow, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, sure. So the first one is actually like kind of a mindset. I know this sounds like coach thing, but you really have to, you can't give up. Like there will be times that you will think that everything you did is like nothing, and that you get stuck on a wall that you feel like you can't pass through. And yeah, that happens every day. I've been coding for almost 4 or 5 years or so. And I feel like that every day. I feel that are challenges that I can't pass. I feel that are barriers that I can't break. But in the end, you can. So if you are starting today, you're going to feel that like every hour. But every victory is going to feel like a real victory. And don't give up when you get stuck. It's really part of the job. So half of my work is getting stuck. So and then getting unstuck. Okay, so now let's pass for like the technical steps for it. So number one, learn data structures and OOP. I think this is like the basis for everything you need. Even though the language you work doesn't use OOP, it helps you to structure your thinking. So yeah, do learn those. And next one, pick a language. It doesn't matter if if you think the language is wrong, because there is no such thing. When you learn a language, you have like the basis to another language. So I am a JavaScript developer. I never wrote anything in Java, but I can read Java code or like C# code. And yeah, and I'm not expert on them. So if you start on something, if you start on JavaScript, don't worry, you're not gonna like, it's not gonna be hard to change language if you feel unsafe about it. So yeah, you can pick a language and then start studying it, start learning how it works. And yeah, it's better if you have like a company in mind that you want to join. So know about the language that the company uses. So it's going to be easier for you to pick. So let's say, you want to be a backend developer. So it's probably best for you to learn Java or C#, depending on the company. But if you want to work at startups, learn JavaScript. Most of them use it, so don't
Got
worry.
it. Yeah. Awesome.
And like step 3, start building something. Just like Akash said, you have to build stuff, or else you're not going to consolidate your knowledge. And when you
Yes.
start to build stuff, you start to understand what you don't know yet, and that's really important. Because there's so much info in the internet that you start like grabbing everything and learning everything, and in the end you can't consolidate the knowledge and you can't know what you don't know. And I think this is
Yes.
really, really important. Like, I don't know a lot of stuff.
I 100% agree with you, man. The problem I think a lot of people deal with is like they'll keep on learning things and not applying those
Yeah.
things, right? Like you can read a million books, right? But if you don't use that knowledge that you got from those books anywhere, what's the point, right? Like recently I posted on LinkedIn, like knowledge is not power. It has the potential
Yes.
to become power, right?
That's strong.
There's no point. That's my approach to like the way earlier the way I used to approach programming is like I want to learn as many frameworks as I can.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, no, that is not the right way. I need to have my basics strong, and then that's it. And then if a company requires that framework, I learn it there and then. Because let's say now I want to learn Vue.js on my own. I learn Vue.js on my own. But if I don't use it after a month or 2 months, I'll forget everything about
Yes.
it. So all that time is wasted, right? So I think it's better, like whatever you learn, make sure you apply it somewhere, be it in your personal project, in your company that you're working for, build a website for your like friend or project for your family, whatever, however way it
Yeah,
works for
like
you.
even if it feels stupid, like I don't know, you want to create something that you add 2 numbers, you just paste 2 numbers on a console and then add them, but do apply it, even if it feels stupid. You don't have to build anything big, because I think there is that problem that I had at the start. I wanted to build everything big. I was like, I want to build everything as a whole. Like, I want to build a website. I want to build a web app. I want to build everything, and I want to build it alone and complete. So this is not how it
Yes.
works. So when you get a job, you're gonna see that you build small things, and other people will
Yeah.
build small things, and then you join them, and it becomes a big thing. So don't worry about building big stuff.
I agree with you, man. I can relate to you so much because my mindset was the exact same. I'm like, I want to build everything on my own, and I want to even build my own libraries that I'll
Yeah.
build use in the projects. Don't do that. Like, try to utilize what's already out there. Like all these frameworks, React, everything is tried and tested. It works across browsers, different devices. So you don't want to build your own React,
Yeah.
right? And then use that. Just have the framework library which is already there. I mean, it's great to build it to learn how React works behind the scenes. If your mindset is that, then awesome. Like, go ahead and build it. But just you want to build a library so you can use it in your own project that already exists. There's no point of doing that.
Yeah.
Like I used to be like, okay, I want to use this specific library that helps you with responsiveness. I want to build that library on my own. I don't want to use someone else's library. But that was
Yeah.
crazy. Now that I look back at that thinking, I'm like, how could I have like why did I do it that way? It's
Yeah, so
crazy.
it's crazy. So yeah, people don't worry about like building big stuff. Build small things
Yeah.
and post everything on GitHub. That's a great note because companies, if you want to get into a company, so they're gonna look into your GitHub. I did some interviews before, and GitHub is really important. So programmers,
Mm,
so yeah, that would be step 4. So post everything in GitHub, because when the interviewer comes to you, he doesn't know you. He will talk to you first. So you guys are going to speak, and you're gonna tell him your experience. But interviewers want to get something like feasible, and they want to
mm,
know how you do things, and they're gonna look into your code for that. So post everything on GitHub and leave it public. As I said
got
before,
it.
don't worry if it's silly, or if it looks silly for you. It is not. Like, it's experience, and if you want to land your first job, experience counts a lot. Even though it's like personal projects, it does count.
Mm,
All right. So the fifth step is get a framework. Like, because it's gonna make things faster. Like, if you choose JavaScript, try building something with JavaScript only first, and then you're gonna try doing it with React. You can pick the same project that you did with JS only, and then try
mm,
applying React to it, and you're gonna see how
mm,
the framework works and how it improves your performance and stuff. So
mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty important. I can't tell you.
I agree. Just to add to that fifth point, I think I that's a very important point that you mentioned. Like what I've seen a lot of people do is a lot of programmers, they when they're starting to learn, they know that React is pretty famous, so they'll try to jump right to React, but don't do that.
Yeah,
Like unless you don't, for example, unless you know CSS pretty well, you will not know why SCSS exists. Like, why do we need
yeah.
preprocessors, right? How will it make you fast? Unless you know JavaScript inside out and how the DOM works and how updating DOM is so expensive, you will not know why React is needed. So get the basics down first and then move on to like these libraries, frameworks. Like libraries, frameworks are there to make your job easy, right? So first learn the basics and then move on to that.
Yeah, and I think I'm talking a lot about JavaScript, React, and Node and stuff because I work with it daily in a daily basis. But if you want to learn Java or C Sharp or any other language, it's the same process. Like, if you want to work with Java, there is like Spring, which is like the most used framework, and it has the problem that it solves. So learn what the problem is. So try implementing that first only in Java, and then move
Yeah.
to Spring Boot and see how it goes. So yeah, that's pretty
Awesome.
important.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. That mindset point that you brought up was spot on, man. Like I think it's very important to have a mindset of like you will get stuck,
Yeah,
and if you give up easily, there's no point of even entering because like I've been coding for 5 years now and I still get stuck.
yeah, every day.
So you will run into issues if you give up easily. There's no point of coming
Yeah,
to the
I think
field.
like
I don't want to discourage anyone, but that's like the truth. You will run into issues. So if you are a person who does not give up and like will try to find the solutions to every like problem they come across, programming is for you.
yeah, and don't worry
Yeah.
about Googling. That is one thing I also had like when I was starting in programming world. Like, I was refusing to Google it because I was like, no, I have to know this, man. No, I have to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do have to know it. But no, Google it. Don't be ashamed of it. We always do
Yes.
that. So if you are stuck on something
Yeah.
and you see an error, just paste your error on Google and go to Stack Overflow or GitHub issues. Don't
Yeah.
worry. You
I
That's the
agree. I
process.
agree with you. Like as soon as like okay, you have to know the concepts and the basics of the language.
Yes.
You don't have to remember the syntax. That is like no basics, like no for loops, no maybe like while loops and if else and all that, which is same, pretty much same across all languages.
Yes.
But you don't have to know every single method that exists on like string or number, right? that's what Google is for. Like I would say 10-20% of our job pretty much every day is just Googling things and reading documentation, reading what's
Yes.
the difference between like a splice and a slice
Yeah.
methods, right? Still don't know. You just Google it and like you will know what you're looking for.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Let's move on, man. How do you keep up with all the changing trends in web development? And
Well,
like the libraries come and go. It's
to
crazy.
be honest, I think I just know like the surface. I don't usually deep dive on anything that's new. Like I hear people talking. Like the last hype that we had was like Dino, and it was like everyone was saying like Dino is gonna rule the world. Yeah, it's the end of Node and stuff.
Replace Node.js. Yeah.
Yeah. So first thing, do not get into hypes. Like everyone's gonna say, "Oh, Web3 is gonna destroy whatever we know about programming and stuff." No, that's not gonna happen. Don't need to worry. Like we have we have programs. They're like 40 years old, and they're written like in Pascal or COBOL or something like that.
Cobol.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
and
That is very interesting thing you brought up. So I was reading this article that the money database is written in COBOL.
yes,
The database that deals with pretty much every transaction is written in COBOL, and they cannot replace it.
yeah,
Like imagine the scale it will take and the amount of programmers and the time it will take to replace that database because it deals with pretty much all the money in the world, and it's written in so old language.
yeah.
It's just crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
So yeah, don't worry about how fast things are changing. So know what's changing, but don't get into the hype. Nothing is gonna die. Don't worry. Nothing. I mean like ever since I got into programming world, everyone said that PHP was going to die. And it's just growing more and more. So
Yeah.
don't worry. So people are gonna say that new tax is gonna are gonna rule the world, but that's not gonna happen. Not so early, at least. So you have time to understand what's behind and apply it, and then learn it. So breathe and just keep your pace. So if you're learning JavaScript, or like let's speak like a real situation here. You're learning React now, and then you learned about Vue or you learn about Svelte. There are other frameworks, and like Svelte is growing up. And people are gonna say, "Damn, this is gonna kill React." It's not gonna kill React. Don't worry. It's just keep your studying. And even if it does kill React, if you know the basics, every other framework is gonna be a piece of cake. So don't worry
Yeah.
about it. So yeah,
That's exactly. Yeah, like you have to know the basics and then the frameworks are easy. Like think about this. If you don't know JavaScript and you go straight to React, and React is built using JavaScript.
yeah. Yeah, the second thing, learn your basics, just like Akash said. Even though things are moving so fast, you have to keep the basics really strong, because anything new, it's not actually new. So there are a lot of fundamentals. They're not going to change so early. So learn those fundamentals, and yeah, and you're gonna be okay for any other tech that comes up. So now for the real question, because I haven't really answered it. Like, so how to keep up with that? So talk with your friends, like get into programming communities. So get into Discord channels, get into Twitter. So most of things I learned are in Twitter. Like developers, I guess developers love Twitter. I do love it, and I'm always on
Yeah.
it. And there's like every time there's a new thing rolling up, and it's always so fun. And so get into community. You're not gonna get everything by yourself, so know people and talk to them. Don't be shy.
Mm.
Yep, go ahead.
Do you like read any blogs that you can
Yeah,
suggest the listeners?
sure. Yeah, I do read. Yeah, I always go to Medium. There is like this blog I like that I won't remember the name by memory, but I will leave it in I will leave the links with you. And I also have and I also signed up a newsletter, but it's in Portuguese, so I don't know if everyone's going to be able to read it. But I'll also leave the link for that. And
Okay.
so yeah, these are my three basic fonts of information. So I have Twitter, I have the Medium blogs, and dev.to. So I love going there
Oh yeah,
and reading stuff. And I also have this newsletter.
dev.to is amazing.
Yeah,
That yeah, I love that blog.
that's really cool. So that's how I keep up with what's going on. And as I said, I usually don't deep dive on anything. But as I
Hmm.
said before, it's great to know what you don't know yet. So if someone comes to me and talk about Zvald, I never touch the code in Zvald, but I know what it is. I know what it exists for, and I know what are the problems that it solves. But I haven't coded a line using Svelte. So it's really great to at least know what you don't know, so you're not like completely lost.
Hmm. Got it. Cool. And I will post links to all the blogs, all the newsletter Charles mentioned in the description. Awesome. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic, which is I think this is also very important. Like, what are the other possibilities for web developers? Like, what other things or fields web developers can move towards, like mobile learning? I know you are pretty like hardcore into like Flutter and React Native and stuff. What other thing can web developers do?
So we are talking about web developers that build websites and web apps, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so you guys can go to mobile programming, as Akash just mentioned. It's really a low learning curve. It's like really easy to understand things on mobile when you know web development, because the APIs are pretty much the same. So
Hmm.
it's going to be really easy doing that. So if you like mobile apps, give it a try. Like if you know React, try using React Native. If you know like OOP languages such as Java or C Sharp, try working with Flutter, because like Flutter has this OOP strong basis, and it's going to be easier for you to read code. So yeah, if you come from those languages, you can try learning Flutter at first and then move into other things. And you guys can also go to like I have a friend that is working at a big agency, and he works with Python to use. He's a data scientist, so you guys can go to data science. I am not an expert on that area. I don't know how. I can't say a lot about it, but it's pretty fun. It seems pretty fun, at least at my point of view. So you're gonna be
Awesome.
dealing with data. You're gonna understand how clients do their things, or not only clients, but like in COVID, as we had, it's really great to understand how data is building and where to apply resources so we can deal with this big crisis. So data scientists were like uh, yeah, they needed data scientists. They were really
Got it.
requested.
Can you talk a bit more about like Flutter and React Native, what they do and like what's the difference? I know you have tried both. Which one you like and why?
Okay, yeah. I don't have a strong side on this one, actually. I think it's more like it depends from where you come from, as I said before. Like, if you know JavaScript, just go to React Native. Don't even think about it. Like, it's really easy to understand everything that React Native does. So the difference between both of them is like React, it's a superset of JavaScript over the native layer. So it teaches to Android and iOS how to read JavaScript code, and then they interpret that and convert it to native elements. But
Got it.
Flutter, it actually it builds like it builds a Canva, and then the Flutter engine is going to like draw everything you need over that canvas. And yeah, that's the main difference of it, like the technical differences. But if you want to learn one of them, just think about your backgrounds. So if you know JavaScript, you can go to React Native. It's really similar to React, so it's not going to be difficult to learn it. And if you come from OOP languages, you can go to Flutter because they use classes, and yeah, everything is really similar to OOP languages. But they are
Mm.
not. There's not a strong difference between them. That's like a killer difference. So you'll be good with either of
Mm.
them.
Got it. Okay, awesome, cool. Let's move on. So, how, like now that you've been working for PayPal, like, do you still work on like personal projects, and like how many hours a day, like, do you code or work on your own stuff? Because I know when you're working for a company, you work on the projects that you sometimes might not like,
Yeah.
and I think it kills your creativity as a programmer. So I believe you need to like keep working on like personal projects, so you keep that creativity alive inside you as a programmer. So do you work on your personal projects, and if you do, how many hours a day is it?
I do. So I never stopped being a freelancer actually, because I think freelancer does that and it gives money as well. So it's like a win-win situation. That, but I do search for freelancers that are not like I search for freelancer job that are not too time consuming, because yeah, I have to be good at what I do, and if I want to be good, I can't be tired all the time. So I guess
Mm,
this is really important if you're willing to work on a company and start your personal projects. You have to balance your things so you don't overdo it. Like it's really good to learn. It's really good to have parallel jobs, but if you get tired, uh, none of your work is going to be great or as great as it should be. So there is not a magic number for you to like, oh, work 2 hours a day other than your job, or 4 hours a day. There is no magic number. It's gonna You have to test and learn how it is. But yeah, for myself, answering to your question, Akash. So for myself, I work about like 2 to 3 hours into other projects. So I have my personal projects, I have freelancer jobs, and yeah, and sometimes I study more things so I can do other stuff. But the process of learning is always like what I need right now. I'm learning on demand right now. So if there is something new that I think I can apply, I will learn it, and then I will apply to one of the jobs that I'm working on, and that's how I'm doing it. So just to give a background, so you guys can have an example. I used to work like 16 to 18 hours a day. I was like having my full job, and I had three other projects running in the background. So I almost went crazy, like really crazy. I learned a lot, but I felt that everything I did was like half capacity, and I wasn't like being the developer I wanted to be. So I stopped all of that, and I landed a job in PayPal so I could like breathe a little bit, and yeah, and now I'm holding this like I'm going through a rhythm that is good for me and for my
mm,
health. So please pay attention to that. Like if
yeah,
your body is like screaming that's gonna stop it, man. Just make a trip, watch Netflix.
yeah.
Burnout is real.
I agree with you, man. Like you have to come into this field thinking it is a marathon.
Yes,
It's not a sprint. I mean, it's okay once a while, like 2 3 days, you are excited about something,
yes,
you want to build it out. That's fine. But for the long term, this mindset won't work out. Like you don't want to burn yourself like in work, like all the time, tired, this, that. Just do it enough that you are improving and you're not feeling burned out at the same time.
yeah. That's it.
So yeah.
So yeah, and keep a routine. Like if you want to study, reserve a time to study, like 30 minutes, 1 hour, and study a little bit every day. Don't worry about like sprinting into something, and in the end, it's gonna be like it's not gonna be the best that you can do. So yeah,
Hmm. Awesome. One more thing. So for the people who want to do like freelancing or want to get into freelancing from like doing a full-time job, how do you approach freelancing, and like how do you find freelancing clients?
At the start, it was pretty hard, like really, really hard. I got a lot of no's. So I went to like 3 or 4 websites, freelancer websites, and I started contacting clients or possible clients, and I get a lot of no's, and or someone did cheaper than I would do. So that's pretty hard. So a way that's easier that a friend told me. I wish I knew this friend earlier. So if you know some business in your city or on your neighborhood that doesn't have a website or it needs a system, go talk to him, like or her. So go to that business and offer your service for it. It's gonna be way easier than have a competition with any number of guys on the internet that's gonna like lower the price to something that's like ridiculous, and you're gonna say this is not for me. So approach clients that you know or that you may know. So it's important for you to have this like connection with the client, so you can close a deal that's good for you and that's good for your clients as well. But if you want to do like me, just go ahead and subscribe to every freelancer website that you can, and the ones that you don't need to pay. And that's very important because there's a lot of freelancers website that wants you to pay, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But go for the free ones and start contacting the more clients that you can and that you know that you can do the job, and talk to those clients, have meetings with them online, and in the end you're gonna land someone, and the first one is the hardest, so keep up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, man. The first client is the hardest. Because, for example, let's say you find your first client somehow, you do really good job for them. Like, if they're paying you, let's say like $500, you do a job for like $1,000 for them, right? You do really good job, and then from that point on, I'm sure your client will refer you to someone,
Yes,
some other, because these business owners, they know other business owners, right?
that's right.
So if you do a really good job for one business owner, he or she is gonna refer you to some other business owner. So that's how you can start building your freelance client base.
Yeah, and one other thing that I almost forgot because it's not the way I used to do, but add freelancer to your description at LinkedIn, because there are like 3 or 4 people that contacted me wanting a freelancer job. I couldn't do it, unfortunately. But yeah, that's like for me, for my experience, it wasn't the best way to get clients, but it's one way. So, and you can just put a freelancer in your description and leave it there, so you don't need to work on it. It's a plus. You can do it.
That is a very important point. I have not added freelancer to my description on LinkedIn, so I'll do that.
Yeah, do it.
Awesome. Let's move on to the next question, and this is probably a lot of programmers have this thing in mind. Like, why do you think coding interviews are getting harder day by day? Like, if someone wants to get into FANG, let's say, right?
Yeah.
They have to start preparing for like at least 6 months in advance. Why the interviews are getting so hard, whereas the job itself is not that hard?
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the reason behind that?
Okay. I guess that's first a historical reason for it. Programmers come. So computer science is like a branch from mathematics. So and mathematic people, they are like really smart and they deal with difficult problems. So if you go to that historical background, you're gonna see that the coding interviews, they were like mathematical stuff, and they are still on this like old way of thinking. But I don't know if that's true. I never interviewed someone with like a with this hard interview. I'm always like looking at GitHub, talking to the person, or like seeing how it deals with a simple problem or something like that. But if you go to FANGs, you're gonna get like those algorithm challenges. They are really hard, like really, really, really hard. And if you want to get in, you have to study 6 months, as you said, or so. Like you're gonna have to study a lot, and that cuts the top for your company. So you want the top working for you. And if someone is
Mhm.
willing to spend 6 months like studying to get that job, so you have someone that's really resilient, and he's gonna make a good job, and he can solve problems because like passing the interview is a big problem.
It is
So
a huge
yeah,
problem. Yeah.
so you're gonna get someone that has that spirit that probably the company is looking for. It's someone
Mm.
that's not gonna give up, and he's smart enough to get knowledge for by himself, so he can he won't need help for everything that he will need. So don't confuse that. You're gonna need help for some things, but you're gonna have to do things by yourself sometimes. So it's nice to know how to handle yourself. So I think companies still have those difficult challenges, so they can see how much you're willing to do in order to pass that. And if you are smart enough to like get knowledge and do pass this exam, so that's my point of view. I don't know if I'm right or not because I never did like I wasn't an interview in those interviews. So yeah,
I really like your perspective, the way you're thinking about it, as it is not just about your like technical skills, but also your soft skills, like how hardworking you are, how resilient you are. Then solving algorithm, those problems are they take a different mindset, man.
yes, they do.
Because I remember I tried, not I tried, but I still like I try to do this problem like once a while, so I can basically like refresh my mind. it, Even the easy problems take a while to solve.
Yeah,
So
I always suck at
yeah,
them.
yeah, it's crazy. Cool, awesome. So we will end the podcast. Before we end this podcast, I wanted to ask you like for one last thing. Can you give like 3 tips for people who are like web developers and how they can improve in like their field?
Uh,
How web developers can improve?
do a little bit every day, even though you don't have a job. Like push yourself 1% every day. Like I know this sounds like a coach thing again, but push yourself a little bit harder every day, but just a little bit. Don't overwhelm yourself. I mean, like every time you look at your code and then you think like, how can I do better? So if you think something may be readable, you make it more readable. If you think something can be a little faster, just do it a little faster. So try to improve yourself every day the way you think you should, and have like goals. I want to learn. I don't know. Clean code by the end of the year, and then you like starting reading it and then start applying it. And yeah, I guess this would be the second tip, like improve yourself and then like apply everything that you learn. So like Akash said, I would like to say that again. So you need to apply your knowledge because else you're gonna lose it. Yep, you're totally gonna lose
Yeah,
it. And have fun. Yeah. You so
nice.
I have fun every day. Sometimes some days I have less fun than others, so there's gonna be bad days, but you have to like enjoy what you're doing. So having fun programming, like and it's something that you feel a lot when you're starting. Like you build like a button and then you say, "Oh my god, I built a button," and that's really cool. So don't lose that. Don't lose that feeling, like that feeling that you build something and that's exciting, because that's what makes the job cool. So yeah, because most part of our day we're like thinking, oh my god, I'm trash, I won't do this, I can't do this. But then when you can do it, you feel that feeling, you feel that excitement. So
Huh.
don't lose that feeling, because that's what makes you that's what makes the trip better. So yeah, have fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles, for doing this, man. I'm sure the listeners will find a lot of valuable key things from this podcast. So Thank you so
I
much.
hope so. Thank you, Akash, for
We'll
inviting.
have to do it again, man. There are so many other questions I want to ask you, but we are running short on time.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll do another
Yeah,
one.
just invite me. I'll be here. I love doing this.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akash.